just have to wait for it to go live here. I need a motion to reconvene to the regular meeting. It is 6:32 p.m.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have any additions to the agenda?
Yes, I'd like to add 6.1 appointments sub-list.
Anything else? May I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll move. A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I made a motion to approve the minutes of the September 9th regular meeting and special meeting of September 21st.
I'll move. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. This is 3.1 through 4.3. Yes.
I'll move. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And that brings us to participation. If anybody would like to come to the podium, now's your time. Please remember to state your name and remember that there's a 3-minute time limit. Seeing nobody moving, we will move on. Bill, I'll turn the floor over to you for
Sure.
the nightlight.
Yep. So 3 years ago, we started a tradition through the board and the administrative team to recognize community members who have contributed to the district, teachers, faculty, staff who have made significant contributions to our district in a number of ways. And last year, because of our virtual meetings, because of COVID, we weren't able to do that. So I'm happy to revisit this and reintroduce our nightlight. And I'm really pleased to be able to honor 2 community members who have been tremendous supporters of this district over many, many years. They have contributed financially, they have donated technology, they have supported our teachers in a number of ways, and I'm just really, really pleased and honored to be able to recognize Dave Hollis and his wife Lisa Aristian as our nightlight recipients. We can't thank you enough for your support of this district, our faculty, staff, students. We couldn't do the things we do without community members like yourself. So thank you very much. Heather, I know you want to say some things.
So I'd like to say an extra special thank you to you, even though I haven't met you personally. You have impacted our school throughout especially last year and a half. So over the last year and a half, while I have been the principal at Hamilton Central, Dave and Lisa have provided quiet support for our teachers and students in the form of ongoing donations that have allowed us to better serve our students. These donations have ranged from materials for pandemic instruction, backpacks and school supplies, meals for our weekend backpack program, to snacks for children in the classroom. So thank you so much for making our jobs as educators easier in these ways. In addition, I'd like to thank you for the strong message that you sent our teachers, staff, and students. By your caring and compassionate actions, you sent the message that we have the support of our community. Each time we were able to provide a package of crackers to a student, it was a reminder to us that we're not standing alone during these challenging times of education. So thank you so much.
We have certificates and we'd like to take a picture if you're able to do that, please. We'll go right in front here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'll go in here. I'll go in here.
Wherever you want to go.
Or I'll go out next to
Thank you both.
Smile.
It's in the eye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Again, on behalf of everybody, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You made it. No, just Bill is an old pal and a neighbor, and it feels good to be able to do something for the school and for folks like Bill. And Lori has made it so easy to participate and to be part of it. And just thank you very much. I really appreciate it. This goes back to, I guess it was what, 99, when my daughter spent her senior year here and and played basketball for Rick Hansen, and I think she's probably now recovered. Thank you so much. You guys do a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you two would like to, you are welcome to stay. You are also welcome to leave, and we would not.
We have to get home to our dogs.
Thank you. And next up is the teacher presentations. I'll let you guys draw for who wants to go first.
I think we're all together.
You're all together?
We're all together.
Here, you're good.
Okay, I'm Jamie Wardwick, fourth grade teacher. Renee Burke, third grade.
Liz Merrill, fifth grade.
Leah Brooks, first grade. Meg Rose, kindergarten.
Lori Cobbington, kindergarten.
Audrey Miller, first grade.
You want to do it?
Our goal for this program, for this project, was to take a closer look at the following math samples: Envisions Math, Huffington, Milfin, Harcourt, also known as HMH, Ready Classroom, Eureka, Zern, and our current math program, Everyday Math. As we were looking through these different samples, we looked at it through the lens of aligning each program to the next gen standards to see which program best fit our needs here at HCS.
And as grade level teams, we rated each of the 5 programs using specific criteria. And the specific criteria that we used was the following: alignment with next generation standards, the digital resources for instruction, assessment, and student practice, the clarity of directions, the quality of instructional and supporting activities. We looked at the systematic and logical layout of all of the content in the programs, the appeal, so for example, the drawings, the pictures, the tables, the photographs. We looked at the teacher's guide and the teacher's materials, the home component for families, the activities that promoted critical thinking and the constructivist approach to learning. We looked at sufficient opportunities for review for students, the differentiation of instruction within the programs, the professional development for teachers, and then the flexibility to implement the programs in a hybrid, remote, or traditional setting.
Once we were given the curriculums, we started separately or with our grade level teams. When we were looking at these separately, we examined the specific parts as it pertained to our grade levels. We looked at the standards. We looked for the gaps that would be required to fill in any of the standards that were not met with the program. We looked at the online resources, and we graded each of the programs on a rubric that Ms. Thomas provided for us. And then we would meet together periodically. I think we met twice or 3 times to take the information that we gathered separately and kind of looking together. And we discussed vertical alignment among the grade levels. So, and we looked for a progression of standards and looked for any gaps that we noticed.
Then we looked at our current everyday math program through the lens of next generation standards to determine what standards were missing and that would need to be supplemented. An example would be first grade needed more work with time and money. So this was very helpful to understand what was missing that we needed to supplement.
And Renee explained the 15 descriptors that we looked at when we looked at each of the curriculums. And the rating that we used was a basic rubric of 4 excellent, 3 was good, 2 was adequate, and 1 was poor, and then a 0 if there was just no value or we couldn't find that component in the curriculum.
So then we tallied the scores for each grade level, and each math curriculum was given a total sum. And Envision and Everyday Math are the two programs that came out on top. Envision had a total of 222 points, Everyday Math had 194, HMH had 182, Ready Classroom had 176, and Eureka Zern had 133.
So as Lori said, in the end, our committee determined that the two programs that were the best fit for elementary were Everyday Math and Envision. We are hopeful that maybe the kindergarten would be able to pilot a unit from the Envision math program to see how that matches up. Because especially at our levels, we're really interested in how engaging it is and how many manipulatives there are for kids to use. And we think that if we had somebody able to pilot it, that might be helpful before we decided to throw the baby out with the bathwater or jump ship, so to speak.
And thank you for allowing us the time to do this research.
Yeah,
Thank you guys. A lot of great time put in. I appreciate it.
it was definitely.
I'll just wrap up. I want to just say a huge thank you. I know that through lots of board meetings, I had envisioned being able to do this work where we had some time to really look at all of the different products, and we tried to fit it in during the school year last year, but this was just really nice time to work together. So this summer math curriculum project also involved K through 5, which was really important because each grade level is looking for something a little bit different based on their learners' needs. And the goal of this project was to investigate the curriculums, and also you heard them mention they really looked at how do they align with the next generation standards, which I know is a current board goal. So that work was just was a natural fit with this project as well. Another thing I wanted to highlight is something that Althea said, where it was really nice to be able to look at the gaps in the curriculum and really understand the next gen standards better, because they were able to just dive deep into them, and really look at them, how they related to the instructional components. So that was a great result of this project. Also, during this process, teachers were able to engage in discussions, and I think that's one of the most valuable pieces, to talk with your colleagues. And also another goal for this year was really to look at the needs of students based off of our last year's pandemic instruction, and we used 3 different modalities of instruction: hybrid, remote, and in person. And so that was also just something that occurred naturally during this curriculum project, to say, during this time, maybe we didn't focus enough on this, so then they were able to communicate that with the next grade level. So first grade said, hey, this is an area that we need to, second grade, you're going to need to focus on this year. That was that time that was given this summer to do that. So thank you to all the teachers, and thank you to you for supporting this project.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
I just want, I just wanted to know if you landed where you thought you were going to, as you were each reviewing it and sort of had a feel for where it was going to, did you land where you thought you were going to?
Honestly, I feel like most of the primary teachers, most of us felt like we are going to get rid of everyday math because it doesn't do what we need it to do. But as we looked at other programs, we realized that it wasn't as deficit as we had thought, and we looked at the alignment. That was very helpful. And I think looking at it again a little more closely and reacquainting ourselves with the program, there were some things that maybe we had missed that we are like, oh yeah, we need to try, like exit tickets. Liz had this whole big conversation about them, and like, we don't have anything like that until you look at the online component, and we do. So I think we expected we would not love everyday math, and we would be looking for something else. I don't know what anybody else thinks. Sorry to.
Thank you, first off, for all the hard work that went into that. So you mentioned you look for gaps in between years. So how does, if you choose a program, how does the transition from the new program versus the old program work, so nothing is lost between the grades? And like, 'cause it'll take what, 5 or 6 years for a program to fully get initiated throughout all the grades. So how do you make sure that nothing is missed between the transition of the two programs?
Heather's given us some research on piloting math programs, and in looking at that, you definitely have to be systematic in the way that you pilot a program to make sure that the gaps are covered. And that's a conversation that we have coming up, starting the math team meeting on Monday.
And prior to this project, BOCES provided us with a crosswalk and highlighted the standards that were switched, shift, moved, and removed. So we do have a general idea of the standards and where they've gone. I think time and money got moved, and I know one of my standards got pushed up to 6th grade. So there was some work prior to this that BOCES had provided with a crosswalk of the standards.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your approach. This seems great, how systematic it was. So the next step, if it's to pilot, is there a set timeline for that, or would that be next year, this year?
Do you want me to talk a little? Okay. So we actually weren't really sure. So at our last math team meeting, we found some research on how best to pilot, and it looks like this particular research article suggested tacking on to doing lessons in your current curriculum and then tacking on some other lessons using this new curriculum. So we were thinking of doing that in the spring. And then you're able to kind of be able to teach students one way and also then teach them the other way and kind of have that experience. And not just, because we actually had that same conversation like, oh, what if one grade level, just all together this year pilots it, but then, just through research, it looks like that might not be the best way. So that's kind of how we're thinking about doing it in the spring. And also maybe after the New York State math assessment would be a good time to try some of this new curriculum and vision that we're looking at. So, yeah.
And then as you're thinking about implementing this, is there any support you need from the board or from the communities that would help with this?
It's a good question. I think at this point we probably can't answer that, but we'll reach out if we can think of any ways. Thank you so much.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. We appreciate your time being here, staying later than open house. Just as we said before, if you would like to, you may gracefully exit it. We will not hold it against you. Enjoy your night. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That brings us to 6.1. We have I need a motion to approve Elizabeth Gerger as a probationary Redeem Elementary substitute teacher with tentative dates of October 25 through November 5.
I'll move.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. I need a motion to approve the following as advisor volunteers for the 21-22 fall play, Penn Ludwig Baskerville, a Sherlock Holmes mystery, contingent upon COVID-19 status, recommended by the secondary principal and superintendent. And the names are listed.
Second?
Any discussion?
I'm going to recuse myself based on the family members that are on this list.
I will thank them, especially those who are volunteering.
Yeah, thank you for everybody, and it's exciting. It's exciting that we're back to doing that.
Yeah.
Exciting times for that, so thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstain?
Abstain.
I need a motion to approve Kathleen Stahl, Morgan Larson, and Julie Dudrick as advisors for the middle school production of Disney's Beauty and the Beast Jr. On December 3rd and 4th, contingent upon COVID-19 status as recommended by the secretary principal and superintendent.
Second.
Discussion? Again, I'm really just excited that we're to this point again. It's exciting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I will abstain again.
Motion to approve the appointment of the winter coaches contingent upon COVID-19 status, sufficient numbers of participants for completion, and meeting the coaches' certificate requirements as mandated by New York State law and as recommended by the athletic director and superintendent.
I'll move.
Second.
Discussion? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Need a motion to approve Courtney Webb to the substitute list as recommended by the administrative team and superintendent.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve the recommendations of the committees on special education and preschool special education.
Hello.
Second. Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to accept the following monetary donations with sincere appreciation and to increase the district budget by these amounts. The Oddfellows, Jack Luke, Sandra Carter, Jennifer Follett, and the Emerald Foundation.
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you.
Thank you all very much for your support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Policy readings and discussion. We've got policy 2014, 2018, 7440. And FEMA form, or FMLA form.
So from the policy committee, I can say Travis has done a lot of great work at helping us look at policies and just seeing which ones are current, which ones need some updating, and comparing it to other schools that have more recently updated, or other districts that have more recently updated their policies to be in line with codes. I think a lot of the policies are just kind of getting up to there.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any significant changes to
So,
what they do, but
2014, it's basically an overhaul of the policy. It's the same material, it's just a new template that's being used, and it's a little bit clearer wording. It's easier to follow when you're trying to figure out what does this policy do. 2018, it's just a newer version of our policy. There's one new section, it's minor changing in wording. Corey, I don't know if you want to talk about the interrogations and searches policy.
Yeah.
That was our oldest policy.
yeah, so
As
we
far
thought
as
we
revision.
should look at it. It's the oldest one. And, the main thing we saw is there seemed to be some contradictions with the similar statements made in the student code of conduct. So we made sure that those matched up. We took off the stuff that was in this so that the student code of conduct took precedent there, so there's no contradiction. Then we kind of made, the other changes are mainly to wording to make things more clear, and then making sure that I think we had one significant sentence that was in another place, but we made sure it was here. It was in student code of conduct. That if any students are questioned by police, that they have the same constitutional rights they would have outside of school. So that was just to clarify something that I think is the legal precedent and what we have in our other policies.
And the regulation, Debbie, correct me if I'm wrong, that won't require any board approval, that's just for our information.
Right. Well, thank you guys. You are really doing a great job getting through these. And
Wait till next month.
Travis is the driving engine. He's got us.
Powerhouse.
Well, we need it.
Travis.
We've
Yes,
done
this
that
needed
for
to happen, so thank
several
you.
years, so it's good to be doing it.
The only thing I want to say is on 7440 is suspicion is weird twice. It's SUSP 1C10N.
It's just a copy.
Yeah, so it's on the first page, and I saw it a second time.
Okay. Bill's noting it. so-
Okay. Yeah, it just was odd. And then there was an odd spacing thing with 3B, 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6. They're just
So you
spaced.
threw those in there to make sure you were paying attention.
I know, I did read it.
Right?
Did,
So
did.
thank you.
But yeah, I mean, that's semantics, it's not.
No, that's
the material
important. That's the
thing.
kind of thing we've been trying to kind of get at too, you know?
Well, thank you guys,
Thank
Thank you.
and we'll look forward to next month. Policy portion of the meeting.
It's gonna be the longest portion of the meeting, is that what you're trying to say?
No, you wait, they're coming.
Bill, I'll turn the meeting over to you, I believe.
Yeah, so it's my pleasure to recognize the board for Board Appreciation Week. Next week is the National Board Recognition Week, and I have a press release that I would like to read publicly and thank you publicly and then some gifts for you as you have volunteered countless hours and your time of your personal lives to support the students, faculty, and staff in this district. So we are very appreciative. So the New York State School Boards Association recognizes October 18th through 22nd as School Board Recognition Week. This is a time to promote awareness and understanding of the important work performed by school board members. Hamilton Central School is joining all public school districts across the state to celebrate School Board Recognition Week to honor local board members for their commitment to Hamilton and its children. It takes strong schools to build a strong community, and these men and women devote countless hours to making sure our schools are helping every child learn at a higher level. They make the tough decisions every month and spend many hours studying educational issues and regulations in order to provide the kind of accountability our community expects. Serving our district is Mrs. Michelle Jacobson, our president, Mrs. Jennifer Jones, our vice president, Dr. Ellen Larson, Dr. Corey Duclos, and Mr. Travis Ames. So thank you very much for your countless hours of support of this district. We appreciate you, and this district would not be in the position it is without your support. So thank you very much. So gifts. Michelle.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Careful when you get your bag. Hoping it was just a tissue.
Jen, thank you.
Thank you so much.
She warned you.
Corey, thank you. Ellen, thank you. And Travis, thank you. So on behalf of everybody within this district, we appreciate you.
Well, thank you. We couldn't be the team that we are without the district that you all are. The time and effort you put in and day out, especially over the last year and a half with the pandemic. It's really been amazing to watch, and to watch from the point of view that we have, both as parents and as board members. You guys do what you do because you love it, and it helps us figure out how to do what we do as volunteers to guide the school. So thank you for loving what you do so much, all of you. Administrators update. Let's just start down the line. We'll just go in order. Now you even know tonight. And it was Matt last. Like,
Which I never get to go. Which was
Chris.
I'm excited. I never get to go.
Always like leaning up at the end.
But usually I keep suspenseful. Who's next?
Yes, very busy, lots of things going on. So we had our first meeting of the technology committee. Great team on the technology committee. I've given them the task of taking a hard look at the new New York State technology literacy standards, which I don't know if any of you have seen. They were adopted almost a year ago. They're actually really good standards. They're really well written, and they are not just about computer technology, but about digital literacy and teaching students a sort of way of thinking in a computational way. So the members of the technology team are sort of crosswalking those with the curriculum maps we've already made. Again, a lot of discussion today about finding gaps. Hopefully with the goal of working those standards into the curriculums that we're currently teaching. We're doing a lot of work behind the scenes, helping teachers and students. We're trying to be as nimble as possible and make sure that whatever the teachers and students need to teach and learn every day, we're there for. I think we're getting better and better at it, the two-man team that we are. Helping Kevin get set up with Second Step. I'm sure he's going to talk about that in a minute. We just had a small update to our camera system, which I mentioned in my board report. If you guys have got any questions about that update, we patched some holes that we had both inside and outside the building. So now the entire The entire school is blanketed with high definition cameras, which is really useful. I worked with the principals to try to find some of the places that they thought the holes existed. Students probably know where they are better than we do. I also started working again with Cove, and just a really sort of great experience we had with them last year, and another computer science student, I believe she's a junior, she sort of reached out to me out of nowhere, wanted to know if we needed any help. I said, yeah. So I've met with her a couple of times. So they're going to collaborate, both her group and the Cove, and hopefully we're going to have some really great enrichment opportunities for kids coming down the line, both beginners and some of the kids that experienced some of that enrichment last year. We're talking about some further advancement for those programs. That's my spiel.
Questions for Chris?
Yeah. I wrote a couple things in there so I didn't forget. You put a lot of time into the website. Thank you for that. It looks great. In short, as part of policy, I've been across websites for school districts all across the state, and I found there's kind of three categories they break down: the good, the bad, and the ugly. Ours is in the good, the upper end of good. So thank you for all that hard work you put into it. It's very easy to use, and I think that was kind of your goal.
Yes.
In the whole stuff. Related to our website, the district has a communication guide. It's a helpful tool. It has contact information and a chart for parents, guardians, whomever, to inform them of the suggested steps of communication for questions and concerns or compliments. For example, if I, as a parent, have a concern or question, this chart would help me navigate who to contact before possibly ultimately coming to the board with a concern. I believe it's on the Board of Education tab. Is it anywhere else on the website for parents to find?
Yeah, Bill just asked me if I would address it, so I just recently put it, you can find it under the Parents tab. I believe it's the second button under the Parents tab now.
Okay.
Yeah, so the updated communications guide is right there under Tools for Parents.
Great.
Very good, Chris. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Chris, I just want to say thank you so much. You have the integrated calendar for me, and it's amazing. And I'm asking you for it. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Trying to put all that info at everybody's fingertips.
Squeaky wheel.
I agree.
Oh, it's amazing.
Okay, so in addition to the written report, I just wanted to highlight a couple of the other things that are kind of have happened since then or are on their way to happening. For one, our open house just concluded tonight, so really happy about that. It was a 4-day open house, and we spread out the grade levels. And I think there's a spot to talk about the steering team, but that was just so helpful to have some perspective on open house this year. Teachers, students, parents alike, just really were happy to be here in the building and see the classrooms. And so I'm really happy that that was as successful as it was. So in addition to some of the other bullets on my submitted report, new things that are happening recently is that we're planning on looking at elementary career development activities in the elementary. So I've met with Sherry Hauk, and she and I are brainstorming and coming up with some really good ideas of different ways to have primary and intermediate students participate in thinking about their own personal interests and how that might relate to a potential career down the line. Another new event that we're working on is National Novel Writing Month activities. So we had a community member reach out to us and was interested in participating, collaborating with the school, and we have a teacher that would like to take that on for the month of November. So more to come on that, but really excited about that part. And the other piece that we're going to begin working on coming up on our half day are the curriculum maps and looking at ways to communicate better with families about the different expectations across grade levels. So it's a little bit of a continuation of what you heard here. So these guys will be able to do the math one fairly easily, and we're excited to look at science, social studies, and ELA as well. Great. Any questions about those things or anything I put in my report?
I do, I'm sorry.
No?
Thank you for your report, first off. A lot of exciting things happening. That's great. I'm happy to hear about the running club that I see you have in your report.
Yeah.
I think that's great. It sounds like it was a success.
Yep.
What's that?
We just wrapped it up,
Yeah.
so that was kind of, yep, a lot of
So-
participation.
Forgive me for this question because I kind of know the backstory, but the Girls on the Run Heart and Soul Club were beneficial for the students in them, not just for the running, but for the lessons beyond running that this club provided. I'm glad we have this new running club. It's inclusive. My question is two parts. For anyone wondering, will there be a Girls on the Run Heart and Soul? And if not, will those types of lessons from it being incorporated into the running club?
So that's a great question, and Meg, who just left, would be a perfect person to answer that. From what I understand at this point in time, Girls on the Run will happen in the spring. So I don't think it's off the table at all. So I think this was an opportunity to have a running club, you know, to just include more students, and it was very, very popular.
Yeah, I see it. We have
So,
north of 30.
yes. So
That's
it,
great.
and it was a, you know, really beautiful fall too, so it kind of worked out perfectly. But yeah, I do believe, I can check on that too. And
Yeah, it was just a curiosity. I'm sure people
Yeah.
will be wondering. So.
Yep, no, I do think that the Girls on the Run will be back in the spring.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so aside from the report that I'll add to the report a little bit. So I know second step was mentioned a lot in there. We've been doing a ton of stuff with social emotional learning. Our kids we're finding here and really everywhere, if you've been following the news, kids are in a lot of stress and anxiety and depression, you know, up with COVID and all of the changes. And so there's a lot of that going around, so we're trying to really lean into this as best we can and so that we're prepared for our students and we have support systems in place for them. So, you know, the whole project of coming together for the social emotional learning program this summer, I think was hugely important. It's here, everything was delivered. We actually rolled out at a faculty meeting today for the teachers, the actual kits, the online digital versions, and kind of went around the website to show them how to maneuver themselves around it. So they're excited to start that. Lessons will go out throughout the year, and so we're excited about that. So just a couple of things to add around social emotional learning. We also, as you know, we have a behavioral support specialist, and we increased this year, Debbie Patrick from the Calverton Center. So we have her 3 times more than what we did last year, which we're very lucky to have. So we're trying to systematize how we use our behavioral support specialists. So they're here, they're in the building, and when we have needs, they go and they address those needs. They meet with the teachers, they do observations within the classroom, they look at behaviors, and then they meet back again with the teachers to give them support strategies that they can use, behavioral plans, both formal and informal. So they've been hugely helpful, but we don't want to wait until we have fires before we start working with them. So I met with my special education team and my counselors last week to try and figure out a more systematic way to using our behavioral support specialists. So Debbie Patrick's going to be, over the next 3 or 4 weeks, we'll be pushing into the grade level team meetings, meeting with each grade level and our special area teachers to find out where their needs are within their grade level. So individual students, you know, just overall classroom practices for behavioral management, those sorts of things. Where do our teachers really need support? And then they'll be alone and do an observation, spend some time in the classroom, get a good feel for the students and the practices, then meet back with the team and debrief about what she observed and offer strategies and support. And that will be a revolving thing throughout the year. So each grade level will get that, you know, every 4, 5, 6 weeks, she'll revolve through that grade level and do the same process. So that kind of systematizes things. It kind of gets us ahead of the fires, and So we put a good process in for that. DESA, keeping on social emotional learning, that's our universal screener that we have, the Devereaux Student Strength Assessment. The window for that opened up so we can start assessing our students. You generally wait about 6 weeks before you start that. You want to get to really know your students. So teachers will be filling out surveys on every student, K through 12. For students that are falling below a certain threshold, we'll give the full DESA, which gives us even more detailed information and provides strategies, programs, supports, lessons for both teachers and counselors that they can use with individuals and larger groups. And then again, we'll give that DESA at the end of the year. It kind of helps us gauge our growth in social emotional learning, both for individuals and for groups and for programs. Things like we need, we're hoping to see good growth this year to be a second step and a few other things going on. So. And then just lastly, tomorrow or next Monday, starting in this room, we'll have Orton Gillingham training for 24 teachers, 10 of our own here at Hamilton. This is the intermediate level Orton Gillingham training. So all of our teachers have gotten, that use it, have gotten that training, the level 1 training. So it's a primary training. This is the intermediate levels for 3rd through 12th graders. So we'll have 10 of our special education teachers and reading teachers and Robin Downey, our speech teacher, will be involved, along with 14 other teachers from other districts. With Stockbridge and Madison and Camden was participating with us. And the trainers coming in from Maine. And we're very lucky to have them. It's one of the things we're using with our money or one of our grants to be able to tell where it exactly came from. But we're excited about that, to bring that next level of phonics-based instruction for our students that really need that. And then just lastly, actually one other thing. So I also worked with my counselors this week, for this past few weeks, and we have this social emotional learning curriculum, the second step. We also looked into specific programs that deal specifically with anxiety, depression, and stress. And so we looked at a program called COPE, C-O-P-E, and I don't have the acronym right in front of me here, but what it is, it's a cognitive behavior therapy program that the counselors will be able to use their lessons to help students in grades K through 12 to help with anxiety, depression, and stress, and for both individuals and small groups. There's a series of 7 lessons that they'll be able to use for lunchtime groups, kids that are struggling with anxiety, depression, and stress, to really give them the tools that they need to help pave their way. So. And then lastly, we are still short aides, TAs, and subs. It's a daily thing, trying to cover all of our classes. It's an hour or 2 a day out of Heather's, out of mine, out of Mark's, where we're going in and trying to piece together days because we're short aides. So we're feverishly interviewing subs. We've been really lucky to get a lot of sub applications from our last ad. Heather, I think, has 3 interviews tomorrow with subs. So the teacher sub situation is feeling a little better. Our aides, we're still short 2 aides. We still need to hire 2 aides, and we've run out of applications. So if there's anybody listening today and you want a sub as an aide, or you to drop off your application, we will interview, and we'd like to really shore that up, because we're starting with 2 in the hole every day, so to speak. We have to fill those plus whatever subs we have to get after that. So we need help. So any questions?
I have a quick question regarding the SEL resources. Is there a plan, and I don't know enough about second step to know this, but to also integrate that in grades 9 through 12?
So the second step goes up till 8. And 6th grade is next. I met with the elementary staff today. I'll meet my 6th grade teachers. Mark and I had talked. Yeah, and I think we want to make that go up to 8th grade. We have the resources to do that. It's not in the schedule, because you kind of have to build that into a curriculum. So that's something that for sure next year that we'll be able to build either into health or homeroom or someplace. We'll figure out a place that we're getting that for our 7th and 8th graders. Unfortunately, it stops at 8, and most of the programs stopped at 5th or 6th grade. It was one of the few that actually went up to middle school. that's a good question, but that's something I think we probably want to address. And you mark, I mean, there's leadership classes, and I know that you develop that in health. There's a little bit of that there too. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thanks, yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, as Kevin was saying, it has been busy. I've lost 7 pounds and haven't exercised a bit, so we've been going pretty hard. But kind of piggybacking on with health, actually, Mrs. Reynolds this year has Wellness Wednesday. She's incorporating that, so her health class is actually working on PSAs, public service announcements that the students are building to raise awareness, middle school, high school, about different mental health issues and just general health as a whole. So they've been working health class on that and sending it out, and homeroom teachers have been asked to show a video the students have made, and they're making posters as well that they're going to put around the school. Tuesday we had open house. We were able to have it in person. We split it up by last name, and we had a pretty good turnout. Over 75 families showed up, so it seemed to be a success. And then Ms. Daou also had a financial aid night. That was virtual. She had representatives from Colgate and Morrisville, able to talk to, speak about the financial aid process and help parents with that, because it is a difficult thing that I'm going to have to start paying attention to pretty soon. But that was also a great turnout, looking at the numbers of people viewing compared to what it traditionally has been. It was pretty good. The students were able to have a Spirit Week this week, so that turned out great. So they had their student themed days, different themes for each day. They did a hallway decorating, so Thursday after school they stayed, each class 9 through 12 decorated the hallway with a different theme. And they did an awesome job of taking it all up on Friday, which is a goal of ours, to not have to put a lot more pressure on our maintenance staff, so they did an awesome job. And I went up there when they were doing it, and I actually told the administration team this, that sometimes things get very difficult with this job and you get bogged down, but when you go up there and you see the students and what they're doing and the excitement they have, it kind of reminds you of why we're in this. So they did a wonderful job of that. We had the pep rally on the stadium field, which was a bit of a twist. Everyone was very concerned about how this would affect their rated ball skills. But they did a great job. They adjusted. Seniors won the game, so they were obviously very happy about that. It's pretty dark and gloomy if the seniors lose and then have to walk away. So they won, so that all worked out. The students did a great job up in the stands, stomping their feet, being loud. And it was even brought up that if we continue with an outdoor event, maybe even inviting elementary so they can start to see some of the things that we're doing in the secondary with the Spirit Week. So that was a good success. We are at the 5-week points. The progress reports are going to be available tomorrow. So that's where a lot of our work will come in. This is our first glimpse as a whole of where we're at. So we'll look at the progress reports and then start to build in supports for our students who may be struggling in different courses. Yesterday we had the PSAT, and we had a little over 30 students participate in the PSAT, so that was a big turnout. And it shows that they're thinking ahead, and they're serious about trying to present a good portfolio for moving on to the next step. Along with the half-day and curriculum maps, we're also going to be looking at in the secondary just general progressions. So 8th grade, this would be a course listing, a typical course listing. And then 9th grade, students would be taking this, and then showing the variations through that students could have. And if you're taking accelerated science, it might look this way. If you're going this path, it might look this way. And kind of giving one-pagers that kind of lay that out for everyone. That's a common question that parents have. What's the best path? In the counseling office, a lot of this is already created, but kind of putting it in one place and making it available on the webpage, so that'll be nice. And then I have extracurricular stuff, but I'll do that later.
Sounds good.
Any questions? Yes.
I've got two for you. If I recall, the FFA convention trip is coming up soon.
Mhm.
That's exciting. Are you still comfortable from the health and safety standpoint, everything smooth sailing there?
We're at right now, yes. Yeah.
Second question, I know a lot of schools across the state and country have been dealing with it. Talk to me, if you could, to the extent that you can hear, about any vandalism and theft issues you may or may not be dealing with. I guess my question is, do you feel like you have the tools at your disposal to nip any of that behavior in the bud if it is happening? More specifically, is there anything that the board can do to help you deal with any challenges that you face?
So, yes, TikTok has become popular. From what I hear from other places, we haven't had it as bad. We have had some issues with the bathroom. Like you may have seen some of the announcements in the daily bulletin reminding students of our traditions. A senior actually wrote in the EP this week a little article about this, and asked the student body to rise up above it and to represent Hamilton the way that it has traditionally been represented. And they brought up in their article, the fact that you walk down these halls and there's not a lock on the lockers. So there's something to be said for that. It's a small thing, but it's actually a very big thing when you look at the safety within our school and the trust that people have within each other. So I'm hopeful with that because the student body is recognizing it and they're saying, that's not right. And when we have that, that's one of the most powerful tools we can have is the students themselves recognizing it and then standing up and saying, that's not us. That's not us. But there have been a few incidents. We try to track things down. It's difficult when things happen in the bathroom with soap dispensers and stuff like that. But it's not horrible. Not horrible.
It's good to hear. I mean, they're not horrible, but. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah? No, they saw you were coming.
Gosh, life of a business official.
Right?
Everybody battles. I really don't have numbers today either, so.
Maybe they'll come back then.
Yeah, they're probably gonna go watch it outside. Capital project update, we're nearing the end of phase 2, which is primarily interior doors and hardware. We're running into some supply chain issues with some of our doors and hardware that just typical that all areas are running into. So I think we're down to about maybe 10 to 12 doors. So we're getting close. Just other sort of happenings around the building. Andrea had her annual health inspection and didn't have any findings, which is wonderful. So that's a testament to her and her crew. That's just one less thing to have to worry about. They come every year, the county department of health them. So, yep. Our bus drivers, I'd like to give some praise to our bus drivers. I'm sure you've seen in the news, both nationally and locally, some horror stories about consequences of not having bus drivers, even locally with a return to remote instruction in some places. I'm pretty certain that, obviously we haven't had to go remote, but we are taking field trips. To my knowledge, I don't think we've had to cancel or postpone any athletic events because of bus driver issues. And I know that's not so much known through the media, but I know in speaking with my peers in other districts that many districts have lost games and had to postpone games because of not having bus drivers. So the fact that we've been able to pretty well navigate this fall sports season without having to postpone games and we're able to still take field trips is wonderful. So thank you to our bus drivers for that. And fingers crossed that we're able to continue that. A couple things just on the business end. Bill and I have been working tirelessly really for about 3 years now. Back when Senator David Valesky was our representative in the New York State Senate, going back even before that, our local politicians were able to grant money to school districts or other entities through what was commonly known as bullet aid, and that really got tightened up at the state level. We were notified just prior to Dave Valesky, the end of his term in office, of a grant through the State Dormitory Authority for a capital improvement grant that was specific to something tied to capital improvements or equipment. Dave's term ended. There was a change in leadership at the Dormitory Authority. We then reached out to Rachel May, and so long story short, we've got the wheels rolling again on this SAM grant. So it's in the amount of $100,000. Because of our capital project that's going on, there's really not any specific capital improvement needed in the building. So what we're trying to do is use these monies to purchase some equipment, a utility vehicle for maintenance, a mower, that really would really help us and help Randy and his crew, but it's not something that we can procure through the operating budget, and certainly not something that we're going to look to build into the budget. So hopefully we've got some traction with that going. And the last thing I want to talk about, I want to kind of back up a little bit. I know you folks just approved some donations recently. We're so fortunate that we have so many people that come forward and contribute. Obviously the Emerald Foundation, the Odd Fellows, and some of these local groups are mainstays in that part of the agenda. But you notice today there were a couple individuals that contributed, and these are people that contributed specifically to support the Corsi Rosenthal cubes, that word got out in the community that the chemistry department at Colgate was constructing on our behalf. And we had some individuals that came forward. It was unsolicited. They love the idea. They value what we do here in the building. They understand the importance of keeping kids in school. So I just wanted to give a little special recognition. I'm sure they don't want recognition. I'm not going to name them by name. But the fact that community members came forward with that specific contribution was great. More specifically, I do want to thank the chemistry department at Colgate, Ephraim Woods and Perrin specifically in the chemistry department, really spearheading this activity. We have 41 of these Corsi Rosenthal cubes dispersed throughout the building. You saw them when you walked in. We're probably going to get up to around 50 or so. But that effort from the Colgate chemistry department, people have really taken notice. So much so that there are other community groups that are interested, and the idea is really starting to expand. And I think you're going to start to see these popping up in other public places. I know the Hamilton Public Library and other places in the community are interested in working with civic organizations and with the chemistry department to get these in place. So, it's just another small added mitigation effort that hopefully is helping people stay healthy and feel a little more secure in these public places. So thank you to Colgate Chemistry Department. Thank you to those individuals that contributed very generously. So, any questions?
I have one that's really outside the box, but I feel like it's in your wheelhouse.
Okay.
You know people who know people. So bear with me here. Many villages and towns have begun to use those digital speedometer signs. I'm sure they have a technical term, I don't know. They come in mobile, temporary form, hardwired, or even solar powered if you're feeling like that's what you want to do. I often see them in front of schools, more so now than I can ever recall. In theory, they help keep the traffic obeying the school zone speed limit. Being that we have so many walkers and people in general using our facilities, hence using the crosswalk on the front. Being that with our reopening plan, we are encouraging parent drop-off, and being that the health and safety of our students is a top priority, one might see having one of those speedometers out front would only make sense. So if the board or the district or any outside group or donor were to pursue or advocate for having one of those, whom do you think they should first contact? Where would a process like that begin?
I believe, I can look into this, but I believe it would be the village. because they have the jurisdiction, if you will, over
Right,
the
the
thoroughfare.
traffic.
So, believe it or not, even crosswalks, the school does not have the authority to employ or use crosswalks. That's all under the village because it is the village thoroughfare. I'm certainly willing to reach out to the village or even the village police department and look into what would have to go into getting one of those. So, yeah, it's certainly something that we would
Yeah,
support.
it's just out of curiosity. I've had a lot of people ask. I've always been curious when I drive through certain places and you see them. I just thought you were the kind of guy that might know people who know people.
I don't sound, Jen, do you have anything?
I do. So actually, I was going to bring this up to Bill after the meeting
Sure
to
you
look
will.
into. So I've been researching this, and actually somebody reached out to the police chief, Matt Janzik, had a conversation. So come to find out, there is actually money that has been in the village budget for the last couple of years to put in one of the digital signs with like the solar panel, and you can actually track the speed. Like, so you can say between 7 and 8 a.m. the average speed of people that are going through the school zone is this. So there's money there, and basically it was just that with COVID and everything else, the money just keeps getting pushed year to year, and that it would be helpful if the school just reached out also to kind of give a nudge to just get that project going. The money's there,
Okay.
they're ready to do it, they just
Consider it done.
need a nudge.
We nudged them.
Well, thanks, Matt, that's one thing I just took off.
I don't know, I don't think I've seen them in this village, but I know in other jurisdictions, I think they're able to move them as well.
Yeah.
Because I know that, I'm thinking of places that I drive through, they'll move.
Right.
So, certainly, during July and August, there may be a more beneficial place for the village to relocate them, but certainly we would be in support of having them, in our main corridor, even approaching from each way, the east and the west on Kendrick, because there's major congestion in the morning, and we would certainly support that. So I will do that. I will reach out.
Now, Matt, last related question, because people have the crossing guards outside of the school, like meaning at the main stoplight and at Lebanon and West Kendrick, those are not school employees. That is done through the village. Is that right?
Correct. Yes. And oftentimes it is carried out by school employees that are doing it on off hours. So they're either doing it preceding their shift here at school, or following their shift at school, or during their shift at school. But yeah, it's not. They are village employees. They are employed by the village for this crossing guard.
Now, the one right out in front of the school, that's always a school employee, right? We take care of that, or is that technically?
No, they are all village
Except when
employees.
it's you guys helping out when nobody's there.
Right.
Okay, that's the part that had me confused.
Yeah.
But that's just to ensure that our kids
Yeah,
are
that's
safe.
just somebody popping out there if we know that somebody's not gonna be there. I know that the village is having trouble finding people to step up, so I think at times their officers that are on duty are stepping in.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that information.
Sure.
Thank
you.
Thank you, everybody. That moves over to Bill, Superintendent's update.
Yeah. So I want to start by just thanking our faculty, staff, and students for being diligent in our mitigation protocols. We've had 2 positive cases that have been traced to outside exposure. However, we have not had any additional students or staff members quarantined. So thank you to our faculty, our staff, and our students for being diligent. I mean, that's incredible to have 2 positives and no further quarantining of students or staff. So what we're doing is working, and we're doing it right. And Matt mentioned the Corsi Rosenthal cubes. We're up to 41. That's just another layer that helps us. We set a goal for 50, and we have the funds now. And thank you to Johanna Vazard and her students who helped put together some of those, and to the community members who have donated. So it's a team effort, and it's working. So that's really good news. We are in week 2 of staff testing. And Mrs. Marcellus is conducting that on Thursdays. She does the staff testing. Friday morning, those samples get sent to Quadrant at Upstate Medical Center to be analyzed. And again, we've had no positives out of those 2 samples that we have. We have surveyed our parents. We have 153 responses back for student testing. 90.2% of those respondents are in favor of their child or children being tested. We have had some no's, which is fine. So we hope to put together, we're finalizing our protocols and processes for conducting the student testing. We hope to be able to start testing within the next couple of weeks. Kevin mentioned that we are short on substitutes. Betsy is working overtime to help keep our community safe within the building. And I'm happy to report that tomorrow we have an interview with a nurse sub who is a community member who has children in the district who is willing to help us out. So hopefully that goes well tomorrow and we're able to come to you with a recommendation for her to be approved to help Betsy. And what I would like to do is have, if this approval process works well and we're able to recommend, is to have her come in every Thursday if her schedule allows it, because Thursday's a testing day and Betsy's in the isolation room testing, and it's hard for her to go back and forth to take care of the daily medicines and the daily duties of being a nurse and test at the same time. So I'm hoping that works out. A couple of administrators mentioned that Wednesday's a half day, and that's going to be dedicated to helping meet the board goal of curriculum maps and making them more parent-friendly and making them accessible on our website. Also, next Friday is a full day professional development superintendent's conference day. And as I mentioned before, Dr. Lavelle Brown, who is the commissioner, he leads the commission, the New York State Commission on Equity, Diversity, Inclusion. He's going to be here presenting to our staff. That's open to all BOCES component districts, so we're really excited about that. I had the opportunity to listen to Dr. Brown at our New York State Council of Superintendents Conference last month. Wonderful. We should be talking about moving past the single story of diversity, equity, inclusion. We've started that work. It's really important. And that's one of the New York State Regents' initiatives to make an emphasis on DEI and start including that into our curriculum and start talking about moving past the single story and hearing and making all of our students feel comfortable within this building. So it's really important work. I attended a lot of sessions at the conference on DEI. Jen and I had the opportunity, thank you Jen for setting this up, to meet with Dr. Dorsey Spencer, who is the Dean of Students at Colgate, who has done extensive work in DEI. He met with us. We had a really rich conversation about where we should go, what we're doing, what we're not doing. He's willing to help us. We're talking about an inclusivity committee and starting looking at our curriculum, start looking at our library books, and talking about what we can do to make this more inclusive so the single story is eliminated. So a lot of my time and effort in the last month has been based around DEI. We also, in support of the board's goal on identifying the needs for curriculum for 21st century skills, had a really interesting conference or a sub-conference at the NISCUS on moving districts to 21st century learning and the importance of infusing technology. And we talk about technology in 2 different areas. It can be coding, it can be pre-engineering classes. It can also be a lot of work in the wood shop with, learning how to change a tire, how to work in the wood shop, how to, drones. So technology is all-encompassing and giving kids different pathways and opportunities that meets their passion. So we're going to start those conversations. We had a conversation with Johanna about infusing technology with Chris and Mark and just moving the district in that direction and what we can do as far as what we have with existing staffing, if we need to add staffing, how do we move in that direction. So that's been a lot of my work. Questions?
I do, but do you guys have any? If I give them questions, I gotta give Bill some questions. Bill, a lot of people might not be sure of the specifics of a few hot topic issues. Keeping that in mind, and the reason I ask these questions is to try to get ahead of the rumor mill. Could you please answer these questions of mine? I know the answers to them, but perhaps some listening don't, and it might be helpful for them. Question one, is critical race theory or 1619 project being taught at HCS?
It is not.
Are CRT or 1619 mentioned or required in the state's diversity, equity, and inclusion mandate?
No.
Looking ahead at how the curriculum at HCS might change once the DEI plan is in place, might an example of that be that a math unit might now include a lesson on an influential female mathematician to spur the interest of any female student that may have felt, for whatever reason, that math wasn't for them?
Absolutely, yeah. That's a great example.
Different topic, again, to clear up a rumor that I keep hearing and seeing online. Can you confirm that neither the state nor the federal government are giving HCS direct financial compensation for having our students and staff wear masks inside of the school building? Am I correct in saying that?
That's absolutely correct. We are not receiving any financial support.
You heard it here. Thanks, Bill.
You're welcome.
Brings us to steering committee update. I'll turn it over to the two teams.
So our secondary met for our first meeting of the year, so we kind of had our general brainstorm of the things we want to cover of the year, so we were able to look at the goals and for the board and see what we find out up there. We talked a lot about curriculum maps, so it looks like there's already some work going on those, which is really good. And kind of looked at what exists and talked about how those maybe don't help a parent when they're trying to look at them, so making them parent friendly, I think, would be big. We talked about some other ideas for things that we could do, including how can the steering committee help be kind of a place where ideas from the community come in and we can help collaborate with the community, make those things work better. So we got a bunch of ideas, and we'll have our leadership help us refine those into what our goals for the year. So it's productive.
And elementary steering committee met once in September, and again, it was a lot of sort of getting to know each other, getting to know the steering committee, talking about what was accomplished last year and thoughts about moving forward for this year. And then I think probably the biggest project at that meeting was trying to find a way to do open house in a way that was in person, because a sense that that's what people were going to launch, but to do it in a way that was safe and de-densified, so to speak. So I hope it wasn't too much stress on everybody.
No.
And hopefully that went well. So.
That was your first meeting. That's the first you've been on that committee.
Mm-hmm.
How was that to kind of get reacquainted with the elementary school?
It was good.
Yeah.
It's good. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Well, thank you for that.
Emerald Foundation, they just met this week. They are approving grants as they come in. A reminder to teachers, please take advantage of those applications. They're a very generous group and are very excited to help when they can. So if you have applications to fill out, please do that. They're also working on their membership. They're going to have some membership transition, and so they're trying to work on getting new members on the Emerald Foundation, trying to diversify a little bit in the years that they can reach out to for alumni, making sure that some people on the committee are alums and some aren't, just to get some diversity there as well. So they're doing that. And I think that's it at the moment.
Will you please relay to them that I'm willing and would like to do another session with with alums?
Yep.
A virtual session, as we did last year.
How did that go?
There wasn't a lot of participation.
No, but maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, and they're also doing, I'm glad you said that, but they're also doing a project which we're hoping to get a little bit more help from some honor society group kids, and so we're working with Holly, on that. But what they've done is put some pictures online that they've gotten from yearbooks of Halloween, and trying to tag different people and try to pull more people into the Emerald Foundation's page so that there's a little bit more reach that way. So some random years they found pictures from Halloween in the yearbooks and just said, hey, do you recognize these people and do you remember this? And just trying to get more people attached to their page and to follow them a little bit, and hoping that that'll generate more support as well.
I've seen those posts. Tag your friends.
Tag your friends.
I did see that, and I was like, what is this all about?
Are most of these
I
people
just thought it was
happy
fun,
to
but
tag?
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's for fun too, but, and I was on the meeting for it, so that's why. They started with Halloween because it's October, so we just thought that would be fun. And
Right.
talked about different groups we could pull in, so, there's been math clubs, right, for years now, and so why not take those and bring those in, and FFA groups and bring those in, and so that's where we're hoping that the student group, once they connect, will be able to get some high-res pictures from the yearbook, with just high-res you can get from the yearbook, but of those photos to try to bring more in and get them to understand what the Emerald Foundation does and how support really, really helps the school. Knowledge share.
I've got stuff.
Right.
I'm gonna fill my quota right here.
I've
I've got three things, actually.
I'm gonna look it up, so you go first.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna start the first, we're not even gonna count the first one. So in reviewing policies for the policy committee, I've spent hours upon hours searching the policy manuals of all the component schools in our BOCES, and north of like 15 to 25 districts all over the state. Specifically, I've been looking mostly at their school board of operations sections and also a couple other ones that we're working on. From that, I've learned that even within our own BOCES, everyone does things differently to some degree. Some schools have barely anything for a policy, others have policies for policies. I found many interesting policy formats, and I already told Chris earlier that our website is easy to use. There are some out there that I just don't go to. So that was part of it. So with that in mind, these all kind of have a common theme. I was like, all right, I kind of like this policy work. What books might be out there that'll help with this process, because it's kind of like it's an oddity, you know? So I found this book, Writing Public Policy, a practical guide to communicating in the policy-making process. I was hoping it would help me with my work on our policy committee. It did, but not in the way I thought it would. Yeah, I want to read one thing and I'll pass it on. This book is, these are their words, a guide that aims to develop the know-how, skill, and critical thinking needed for communicating in public policy work. It's a 5th edition, so you know it's good. You just don't get a 5th edition if you don't know what you're talking about. It explains the different styles and types of writing used in influencing public policy. It gives examples of each style and commentary on those examples. This book helped me better understand anything from how the state budget process works, the behind-the-scene people, like what is going on behindhand, who the actors are, if you will, who is kind of pushing the buttons, to understanding how organizations such, for example, NISBA, influence policy. The biggest takeaway for me were the many helpful tips on how to become a better writer and communicator. Just a short example here, little things you don't think about, but this is where the book will be handy to go back, like, that's pretty good advice, I should take it. So here's just a short snippet. There's all kinds of advice like this throughout the book. Communication is more than an information exchange. It is also a social interaction. Empathy of writers' awareness of readers' circumstances affects a communication's reception. Tone or the perceived attitude of a text has a big effect. A wise communicator once said, people might remember what you write or say to them, they certainly remember how you made them feel. recalling that policymakers receive a lot of unsolicited communication and have too little time to absorb needed information. You should be aware that tone explains why some communications are ignored and others are considered. Emails that are expressly hostile or seem closed-minded are likely not to be read, to receive a response, or to be useful in the process. There's all kinds of examples like that. There's sections here that don't involve the school at all. Really, anybody. Advocacy work, this book would be very helpful. It's also very boring, so you've been around. Speaking of boring books, man, you're gonna like this.
Another one.
So that book didn't really do what I wanted. I wanted there's all these different policy templates, if you will. How do you actually write a policy, which beyond a school, I guess would be more of a law. As we're going through them, there's the state ed book we've got, which I've got pages folded all over. That's fun to read. So I was like, is there like a more condensed version, There is a lot of our policies mentioned the Consolidated Laws of New York, Public Officer Edition. Wow. So going through the many board policies, there's a lot of stuff in here from that. There's also a lot of stuff that is not. So I got tired of Googling what those laws were. Now it's right here for me. Much of this book does not relate to schools in any way. The parts that do include the Freedom of Information Law, Open Meetings Law, and a handful of others. Aside from that, this book was helpful to me in understanding how these laws are written, the style that is. I can use that knowledge in our policy committee, and this is a very dry and boring book, and I loved it.
Only you would. Yeah. To be fair, my first school law book had so many Post-it notes and all things in it, but I totally understand.
Yeah. You give me a manual, I'll read it. No pictures.
No pictures.
But
well, good. I mean, that's awesome.
Oh my gosh, did anybody else know? Yeah, okay, I'll leave that
I'm thinking Travis has it covered.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm grateful he's on the team for this.
So that's what I have for knowledge.
Great.
Thank you.
I think we both went to this, right, the call to order? Yes. Jen and I went to the call to order, how to manage contentious, thank you. I wanted to add so many more letters. Board meeting. And it was pretty good, but at the same time, it doesn't fit us. It doesn't fit our community. It doesn't fit our school district, and I'm thankful for that. The examples they were giving, I would just sit there and think, oh my God, like I'm out of here if that stuff starts happening, right? Like so I learned a little bit from it, but at the same time, it was reassuring to know that what we have here is a pretty good thing. And yes, there are hard conversations that we have. And yes, there are moments that we wish were different occasionally, but generally speaking, we have respect, and that's the most important thing when it comes to a board meeting, and especially in a school where you hope that students are learning from what you're doing. So that's all I have.
Yeah, I will say, I just printed the handouts from that today that came through. And I actually am appreciative of the handouts.
Yeah.
I think there's valuable language.
There is.
There's really valuable language. There's valuable strategies. There's valuable tools.
How would you like to read that public comment section every time? I was like, Michelle, that's our whole meeting. It's like
They wrote up a.
But it could be printed.
It could
That's
be.
what I said.
Before public comment, it was like 6.5 minutes long.
It's
And we had
unbelievably
two
well
public
written.
comments, and I thought that's more than our meeting. Like the amount of time it would take me to read it, and I would probably stumble over many words. And oh God.
But I do think,
It's
I agree
incredibly
with
well
Ellen, it'd
written.
be great to post, or just have it up.
So it was good. It was a good workshop. I missed pieces of it because I was at work, and so I was multitasking with it in my ear and working. And so there were some things that I missed, but as soon as I heard something that I knew that I needed to listen to, I paid a lot more attention there. And then, Bill, do you want information to share about the book club?
Yes.
For your team?
Yes, so we had our first meeting of our book club through Syracuse University on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it was excellent. There was 17, I believe 17 districts. There's over 100 participants. And Dr. Theo Harris framed what our work was going to be for the year. He gave us very specific tasks. We were able to move into a breakout room with just HCS administration to have some really good dialogue on what we're doing and where we're going and what we should be moving towards as far as DEI. It was a great opportunity for us just to have some space and time to have some real rich dialogue on DEI. And it's going to be hard conversations, but it's conversations that we need to have and we should be having to make this an inclusive setting for all.
Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't make the meeting, and likely won't make the meetings because they happen to be at 1 o'clock.
Right in the middle
of work, you know.
So we have our second meeting next week.
Following along.
We have a lot of homework to do.
I'm going to be behind by the next week's meeting.
Yeah.
I'm keeping along with the reading.
Yeah. I think it's going to be very beneficial to the leadership team and ultimately for our district.
Well, I'm glad you're all participating in it, and that, like I said, I will be behind as of next week, but I will catch up. I was ahead before the last meeting, so you know, but it's important work, and it's important to think differently, and it's nothing else. That's the point of this. Thank you.
I want to thank you all too for dedicating time to such a crucial topic.
Anybody else know sharing this one? Like there wasn't enough.
Yeah.
That was big. Advocacy update?
So I will be attending the NISPA annual business meeting on Monday. So all the resolutions will be voted on, and I'll be able to share more next month with what some of the advocacy efforts are going to be from a state level. And
thank you for coming, doing part of that. Athletics update and extracurricular report. I'm going to put them both at the same, because I assume.
So I have athletics. Ms.
Okay.
Freed couldn't be here tonight, but
That's
she
fine.
sent me.
I assumed that.
She sent me her update that I'll read to you.
Yep.
We are ending the regular season for soccer on Saturday the 16th. The seeding meetings take place on the 17th for postseason ranking and game assignments. We're very hopeful that the boys and girls soccer teams will be playing in the preliminary round, with Hamilton potentially hosting a boys game.
Great.
Volleyball ends in another week with their meeting and sectional play beginning. We're hopeful that they will be playing in the first round as well. Cross country will be finishing up on the 23rd with the CSC meet. We've had a very successful fall season with all of our 10 teams and 2 combined teams. It's been a wonderful seeing our student athletes practice, compete, and being cheered on by spectators. Winter sports signups are currently taking place. Varsity and JV winter practices start on November 15th. Modified girls volleyball begins on October 25th, and modified basketball will begin on January 3rd. A huge thank you to our coaching staff for their dedication to our student athletes this fall season, and to our grounds crew for making sure the fields and gym are always ready for practice and competition. Thank you to the administration and the board for always supporting HCS athletics. Thank you, Mrs. Freed.
Thank you, and thank you to her.
Sure.
And congratulations to all those participating.
Yeah.
Where are we with athletes testing, unvaccinated athletes testing?
Yep, so high-risk sports, which is volleyball right now, are being tested. Any unvaccinated athlete is being tested once a week by Mrs. Marcellus. They're now going, we were using the Care Start testing until our testing through Quadrant has started, but now they are included into our pool testing. As we move into winter, those high-risk sport athletes who are unvaccinated, there'll be more of them. So that's why we can hopefully get Betsy some help. So they will be tested once a week as well. So that'll increase our testing capacity.
The frequency of testing in a week is determined by the zone we're in, is that right?
Correct.
And
Yes.
currently we're in the zone that determines one test per week.
Yeah, we waver back and forth, but we are testing once a week right now.
I assume waiver towards the 2 tests.
Correct. Yes.
Well,
Yes.
wishing you best.
Yeah.
Extracurricular? You
Yeah,
can
sure.
stay there if you'd like.
Okay.
I mean, you're welcome to get out, but.
I'll touch on a few of the clubs. So Tech Club is going again this year. And they've been able to establish their routine. So middle school students are live streaming the announcements on Mondays, and high school students are live streaming the announcements on Fridays. Similar setup that we have right here. I believe it was Morgan that shared a school that has like a full news team that's like top-notch professional. So he shared that with them as well, and so, you know, something to shoot for. But they're doing a great job. Yeah. And with the students, you know, they're practicing speaking in front of a group, even though we don't have forum right now, and you aren't standing up in front of the all the faces. It's still, you know, a skill that they're learning in front of a camera right now. And then the technology they're learning as well behind the camera and working the computers and everything to get it all going. So they're doing a great job of that. And they also have a few competitions they're going to be entering as well. You know, traditionally they participate in the BBB competition, but then they're looking at some others as well. And I believe there's about 30 students that are participating in the Tech Club. A little ways away, but it's still something they had to start working on. Ski Club, so Tog is closed, so they had to find a new mountain. So they have been working on figuring out where we're going to go. So I believe they're leaning toward Labrador right now. They're going to have an informational meeting coming up with students and interest meeting and see where they're at, and then work with the mountain to move forward with that. National Junior Honor Society, National Honor Society have gone through the process of selecting candidates, and they're going to have their induction ceremonies coming up. Next week is National Junior Honor Society, and the week after is National Honor Society, I believe. The 26th is Junior Honor Society, and November 9th is National Honor Society. So a lot goes into that. Masters have been busy. I know with the middle school production of Beauty and the Beast, the student directors have been working throughout the summer, so they've been going nonstop, and that, you know, they're excited to be able to, one, be in person, but then to actually be directors and work with the middle school students. And I think that's a great thing that we have here. You know, small sometimes creates some difficulties, but it also creates a lot of opportunities as well, and this would be a great example of that, having our older students work with our middle school students on a production. High school, we have the fall play we just talked about, so we just started a rehearsal process. Still working out logistics. What is it going to look like come the day that we're showing the show? But Donna's working hard at that. Amnesty International is being converted to Model UN, so the students talked and they would like to run a Model UN instead. So Amy did a lot of the background work to try to make that happen, and made the suggestion. I believe it was on the board agenda tonight. And so they're looking at the possibility of attending some conferences and moving forward with Model UN. What else? So all the classes have gone through and elected their class officers. Student council is up and running. They're a big part of setting up Spirit Week and working all the logistics there. And it's kind of a quick summary of where we're at. And then other clubs are having their interest meetings, getting people, trying to track people down. And one thing I would like to do, and this is something I put out in the letter I sent at the beginning of the year, is to try to get students to participate in at least one thing during the year. I believe there's tons of value in having students connect with the district in a different capacity rather than just 8 to 2:45. But find something that isn't just a regular class that they can become a part of and make a different connection with the adults in the building and with other students in the building. So that's something we'll continue to work on throughout the year.
Thank you. Mid-year evaluation, let's see. So just as a point of remembering that we have dates set up for the evaluation process, and to make sure that we connected, we were supposed to connect this month to make sure that we were feeling good about the date. So currently we're planning for the review document to be finalized by the 18th of November for Bill. It will then come to us for a mid-year review, and we will wrap that up and present have our executive session in the beginning of January. So the process will go through December and the holidays. Same timeline as we've had in the past, hoping less adjustments this year because life's a little bit more solid, just a little bit. And I did talk to Bill and he said he is slightly on track for these dates.
Mostly.
So if we think we're good, then we've checked this off of our list of things we double check on, and we'll move forward as planned as right now.
Great.
I forgot one.
Oh.
I looked over at Sue. Athletics is going.
I was sitting here
Start yet.
Sue wouldn't let athletics not happen, so she found a way, and the kids are coming in, you know, good Saturday morning athletics competition to start your weekend. So that is going as well, and this Saturday, it will be the third one? Second one this Saturday.
And athletics is high school, not middle school.
Anybody, it's some 8th graders, anybody who's taking Algebra 1
Okay.
or higher.
I had it written down.
And we're in first place right now. Even above New Hartford. It may not last long. It's a bit of rivalry.
The time for our final presentation. If anybody would like to come forward, please do so. State your name and 3-minute timeline.
I would like to. Thanks. Hi, everybody. I came into school today. It was really strange. First time since. Oh my God. Okay. That's the problem, carrying the big purse. Okay. My name is Pat Rowland, and as you all know, I'm a former teacher here at HCS. All of us here have a vested interest in our children, whether it be as a parent, an instructor, an administrator, or some combination of these. We are all involved because we love children and desire the best for them and their futures. I too have a vested interest in these children. I made teaching more than my career. It's been a part of my life, and I have loved my time spent educating my students here at HCS, many of whom are still learning and growing into maturity, and I've had at least one of every one of your children. Many of you have children in this school or in another public venue, and I know without a doubt that you care. You care not only about their education, but about them growing up to be respectable and discerning citizens in this ever-changing world in which we live. Excuse me a second, I'm not used to wearing a mask anymore. Okay. Recently, the high school recommended reading list has come to my attention, and to tell you the truth, it is very disconcerting. I understand the cultural issues that have integrated themselves into our society, our community, and our curriculum. While I do not disregard them, in addition to these is an issue that should raise grave concern for you as parents, educators, and administrators. You may not be aware, but the same so-called literature that will entertain or educate our children on these social and cultural issues also contain X-rated pornography, perverse language, and explicit sexual scenes that are severely inappropriate for unimpressionable young people. Here are some of the topics covered in a few of these books. Excuse my language. Graphic anal sex, blowjobs, polyamory, the normalization of drug and pharmaceutical medicine use, miscarriage, abortion, pedophilia, intersex, adultery, polygamy, masturbation, rape, and in the context of birth control and sex, these books teach that age is subjective and parental consent is oppressive. There are these subjects in greater detail than what I've described and much, much more. I'd really like for you to listen to an excerpt from a book, if that's okay. A couple minutes.
You only have the 3 minutes, so I don't think we have time for that. I'm sorry.
Okay. I would suggest you listen to it. The name of the book is All Boys Aren't Blue. It describes a sexual scene between two cousins. I really don't even want to get into what it's about, but it's
two cousins that have interaction, they go down cellar, one cousin teaches the other about oral sex, and then in further scenes it describes this person having anal sex, how to do it, using condoms, flavored condoms. It's awful. I mean, I'm embarrassed just even talking about it. So if I could have played that for you, this is my questions for you. Was that painful, distasteful, uncomfortable? I hope that it made you very uneasy, and I hope the thought of your child reading these books makes you even more uncomfortable. Is this not shocking to our moral decency? This is pure filth. Reading this material makes one feel dirty and disgusting. What effect will this have on our impressionable children who are being shown that this is normal behavior, normal discussion, and a normal way of thinking? I dare say devastating.
I know you said 2 minutes, so just if you could wrap up.
I am.
Okay.
Question is, are we sacrificing the innocence of our children in the name of diversity, equity, and inclusion? These things can be taught in a more appropriate way. We do not need explicit sex to teach these. We as parents do our best to raise children to be kind and respectful members of our community, to be empathetic. At the same time, we're supposed to be able to trust our educational system, to enrich the minds of our children, to challenge them, and help them to be critical thinkers. When either fails, those concerned need to stand up for our children. They are our future and our responsibility and our duty. Hamilton, from my experience, sincerely cares about their kids, parents and teachers alike. I know that. It's evident from the abundant parental involvement in our school and attendance at school functions. Under the guise of social justice and equity, what are we doing to our children? You board members, administrators, teachers, and parents have the important responsibility to filter out this repulsive, sexually explicit content from quality curriculum. It is our duty to protect and cultivate the minds of our vulnerable students and children, not pervert them. If you don't stand, then who will? That's it.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? Any other public discussion?
Are people able to comment from remotely or?
I think they said at one point. Mine isn't working for all of you. And it has. I need a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss current litigation.
I'll second.
There will be no vote after.
There'll be no more.
So we will, if somebody wants to wait out in the hallway, you can, but there's no need to, and we won't bring the YouTube back on afterwards. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting.